My name is George Meshko, and I associated with Dick for over 50 years. I was a World War II airman on a B-17 and flew missions out of England over Germany. And this is the toughest mission I've ever faced. How do I explain or compress a relationship that Dick and I had, which is awful close, into a few minutes of discussion here? We all know him. We know his good and his bad and his ugly. And I'm not getting into that because you wouldn't be here if you didn't know that. About 25 years ago or so, we went on fishing trips down to Lake Powell and rented a houseboat. I say we, there were 10 others of us, so there was 12. And we did this on a yearly basis for a number of years. And it was a great time. And of course, he was the center of attraction. Dick and I had the back bunks that were, stacked one on top of the other one at a houseboat. And after all the drinking and swearing and the feminine talk finally subsided, I got tired and I went to bed. I had the lower bunk, and Dick always had the upper. In the middle of the night, there was one hell of a crash, and it just shook the boat. And Dick fell out of the top bunk right on the floor. And his face wasn't a foot away from mine in the bottom bunk. I says, God damn, what happened, Dick? He said, shit, I don't know, I just got here. There's a row right here in front that testify to what I'm saying. Another, the two of us got our start on trying to be rich. And we did it with some condominiums we built out in Lakewood. It was called the Ore House, O-R-E house. Of course, the kids come along with a paint spray and put a W-H in front of it. Well, we discussed we got to do something. We can't depend on the government, Social Security, and we sure as hell can't depend on the airline's retirement. We have to pull our bootstraps. And we talked about this for years. Finally, I found a deal out in North Denver. It was the name of Sproul, a building company building jerry-built houses out in Golden, and they went bankrupt. Now, this is about 1974 or so, 75. And everything was going down a sewer. If you remember it, they expected the Olympics and it didn't come, and it was a bad economic time. I had a 12-unit apartment at that time. I needed some fencing around the back of it. And the guy who was the superintendent of Sproul going through this bankruptcy bought my house. We sold it out. I was looking for some fencing. And he says, come on out, we got all kinds of stuff, we got to get rid of it. So I went out, met him, and looked it all over. God, it was a big building with this prefab housing manufactured inside of it, and acres outside full of material, and wow. I gave Dick a call that morning, and I got him on the phone. I says, Dick, you got $10,000? He said, you're in jail. No, come on, let's go out there and I'll show you what we got. Well, they had 7 days to clean out that whole lot, and there was a lot of material. It was pretty close to $1 million worth of everything. And we were able to steal it for about 11 cents on the dollar. Now, you don't run into deals like that often. But they had to get rid of it in about 6 days we had left. It was over Labor Day holiday. So we got about 8 or 9 of our friends and associates who had strong backs and weak minds to join us and help move all that stuff out. And Dick was running a forklift out there at the yard, loading up these trucks, and we had another forklift out in a lot that we had to put the buildings up. Well, Dick got this, there were these prefab buildings just have a wall like the side of a house, and they stacked them up like cards. And we had to get those out of there. So Dick got the forklift, he slid it underneath there, lifted it up, and boy, all these yellow jacket hornets came out. Holy mackerel, there were thousands of them. And so we dove, he bailed off the forklift, and I'm out there on the side waving them around, telling them what to do. And we jumped in a pickup truck, shut the door, and rolled up the windows. And now we're hung up on this job, and all these workmen waiting. So we ran down to Ace Hardware and got some spray, spray bottles of a can of bee killer, and it was especially for those, bees and hornets and wasps. And we ran back to the site. Didn't move the forklift. It's still there with this stuff all up in the air about 4 feet. Well, I got that spray can and Dick, and we got out of the truck, and Dick's right behind me, and we're crawling underneath this, and up there's where the nest was. I got up there, and Dick is right on my shoulder, and he's breathing on me, and I get up closer and closer and closer, and he says, "Thank God we don't have to give him suppositories." Well, that about sums it up for me. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead.